All right, everybody, I'm going to give you an informative speech about an overview of our cardiovascular system and the beauty of our human hearts. Every living cell in our planet relies wholly on the steady movement of interstitial fluid. Without this steady movement, life would cease to exist. Interstitial fluid is a fancy word for blood and the nutrients that's carried inside of our blood. Today, I'm going to give you information about the heart of life. There will be 3 main points that I want to cover throughout my speech. Using these points, I hope to instill a little bit of knowledge and respect for our own beating hearts. Points that I will cover will be an overview of the cardiovascular system, the pericardium, and the internal anatomy and organization of the heart. All right. First, the overview of the cardiovascular system. First, take notice and appreciation that a small muscle that described by Frederick H. Martini, author of the Human Anatomy Textbook, edition 7, is roughly the size of your fist. This is a single small muscle, and it's in charge of circulating blood through your entire body, day and night, 24/7. The average person's heart will beat 100,000 times per day, pumping what WebMD declares as 2,000 gallons of blood through your entire body. Your heart is going to be made up of 4 chambers: the upper and left atrium, and then the lower right and left ventricle. The 2 ventricles will contract in unison and will eject the same amount of blood every time throughout its cycle. Interesting fact, each circuit will begin from the bottom of the heart, meaning the heart contracts from bottom to top. These chambers work together to create 2 circuits: the pulmonary circuit, which carries the air we breathe to a gas exchange surface on the lungs and then returns with oxygenated blood back to the heart, and the systemic circuit, I put them in color-coded so it's easy to read for everybody so you can see where it's actually going. But anywho, the systemic circuit will then transport the rest of the CO2-filled blood back to the rest of the body. This is possible through needle-sized tubes called arteries and veins. There are 60,000 miles of blood vessels inside our bodies that feed our organs and tissues. Arteries will carry blood away from the heart, and veins will carry blood back to the heart. An easy way to remember this in medical classes is arteries away, voila, veins. So now that I have explained the basic overview of the cardiovascular system, I will go on to explain the fragile outer lining of what our hearts rest on, known as the pericardium. The heart is positioned in the upper left anterior chest wall in the pericardium cavity. The pericardium is a serous membrane, this thing right here. Serous membrane, serous meaning that it's transparent, very thin, and it's the lining of the outside of our heart. I would like to now present my favorite example used in my Human Anatomy textbook, again written by Frederick H. Martini, PhD, and other colleagues, was to imagine pushing your fist into a balloon. I have got everybody a balloon. If you want to put your fist right into the actual heart right there, this is what we're showing you. The part that is the wall of the balloon corresponds with the pericardium, and your fist is the heart. So the part of the balloon touching your fist is going to be known as the visceral pericardium, and the rest of it is going to be the parietal pericardium. Continue with the same experiment or example where the balloon starts to wrap around your fist. This is going to be the base of your heart, and it's where it's going to start connecting to your blood vessels and your mediastinum. Okay, and then also a serous membrane of the parietal, so the rest of the balloon, containing abundant collagen fibers known as fibrous pericardium, form a tough pericardial sac, which is what keeps our heart stationary and in the same place. All right. So now that we have looked at the basics of our cardiovascular system, as well as the fragile outer lining of the pericardium, let's move on to the internal anatomy and organization of the heart. That's my favorite. The right atrium is situated, and again, I have put these all on the balloon, so if you do not understand what I'm saying, if you want to, I put arrows so it's like easy to read. The right atrium is situated in the front upper section. Here we go, right here, this is your right atrium. It's going to be fed in by the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava is responsible for receiving blood from the head, neck, upper limbs, and chest. And the inferior vena cava is going to be from your tissues, organs, abdominal, pelvic cavities, and lower limbs. After the blood is processed through the right atrium, it will move down into the right ventricle. So here we have the hole that it goes down. It's going to pass through the tricuspid valve. It's called the tricuspid valve because there's 3 cusps that make up this valve. So it goes down into our right ventricle. After it gets into the right ventricle, it's going to contract, and it's going to go up into this little tube right here, and this is going to be our pulmonary artery. That's going to feed into our lungs. Once it goes into our lungs, a gas exchange is going to occur, and it's going to come back through this part right here, our pulmonary veins. And then it's going to dump right back into the left atrium. And once into that left atrium, it goes into the bicuspid valve. It's called the bicuspid valve because there's only 2 cups that make up this valve. And it goes into our left ventricle. And once in the left ventricle, this is going to be the last part of our journey. This is where the heart is going to take all of its force. This wall that makes up the left ventricle is the thickest, and it's so thick because it's in charge of contracting and pushing all of that blood up into the aorta, that is ascending aorta, into our biocephal. It's a really hard word to say. Into our whatever. I'm stumbling now. Into our descending aorta, and then it goes and distributes out the rest of our bodies from our head, shoulders, knees, and toes. All right. So in review, okay, yeah, and then I just already explained all of that. This is going to be our left ventricle, left atrium, and this is where our blood comes back and is oxygenated. That's why it's in blue. So in review, we first looked at the basic structure of the cardiovascular system. Then we went on to discuss the pericardium, and then we went on to do, which led us to the internal organization of the heart and all the intricacies of our heart chambers. I hope you take away a better appreciation and understanding of the fragility and importance of our human hearts. Thank you.
So is the pericardium basically just kind of like connective tissue?
Basically, it covers the outer, like this would be known as the pericardium, this whole outside, because once you lift up that layer, it's going to be your actual heart. So yeah, it's kind of like
your plantar fasciitis almost.
Huh? Yes. I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, and so yeah, it does that, and then like right here is where the pericardial sac is made, and what holds a heart. And if you guys want to pop your balloons, there's chocolate candy in it.
I don't know. I think I've got to take a picture of this for future sections.
Right?
Good stuff.
I took plenty of them, and then like I got all these other hearts in here. I thought that was
I was
gonna
going to say, yeah, you were so prepared. That must have taken a really long time.
It's
So.
She's like, it did feel bad. It feel bad for me.
I must take a break.
Okay, you bet. We'll be right here. Thank you.
Don't go away.
Don't go away.
Oh, we just
She
had a
knows-
test.
She knows me well.
See ya. Just kidding.